Kirsten Tortorella, the junior high pastor here at North Coast Church in Fallbrook, and this is your weekend recap. Sunday was Easter, obviously, and we started out doing a little test. I know your students are on spring break, but I had them do one last test, and it's called the Good Person Test. And I asked the students not to raise their hand, but just to think about whether or not they considered themselves to be a good person. And I said, well, if you're like most Americans, you probably would say, yes, you are a good person. And the reason we come to that conclusion is because often we compare ourselves to other people. And, compared to what some people have done, we seem pretty good, or we convince ourselves that we are. But then I challenge them to compare themselves to God, because that is one truth and one law, God's standard, which is not relative. And so I said, let's just take the 10 Commandments, for instance, and let's go through them and see if you're a good person based on the law in the Old Testament that God gave us, the 10 Commandments. So we started with some easy ones, and they all had agreed that they had lied, and they all had agreed that they have dishonored their mother and father, which, by the way, used to be a capital punishment. I made sure that they knew that. They were kind of scared a little bit, so you're welcome for that. They had joked that they had stolen some things, but then something like murder. I said, well, surely none of you guys in here have murdered. And they're like, yeah, okay, well, we're off the hook on that one. But I said, probably what you don't know is that Jesus says in 1 John 3:15, he says, he who hates his brother is a murderer. And I said, often we think we're not guilty of those things, but, Jesus holds hate in the same, with the same severity that he holds murder. So if we've hated someone, Jesus says that's as wicked as murdering someone. I said, so you guys can kind of see where we're going with this. Compared to God, none of us are good. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, Romans 3:23. So where does this put us? We're obviously guilty. And if God is our judge, if he's a just judge, won't he judge the guilty for what they've done? And I said, so where does that really put us? And the big concept that we looked at for Easter Sunday was grace. And we talked about what grace actually means, and that the beauty of Christianity is that it's the only religion where we see God reaching down to man through his love and through Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. Every other religion, it's about man reaching up to God, trying to earn favor, trying to earn God's love through good works. But I said, logically, if you think about it, that could never ever make sense. How do we know how many good things would be good enough to equal heaven? Well, what if you had a bad day and tipped the scales in the bad direction, and then you get in a car accident? Well, is everything lost because you had a bad day and tipped your bad scale heavier than your good scale? And so I really challenge them to say that could never make sense, but what grace does for us is what we could never have done for ourselves. God gives us grace because it's something we didn't deserve, and that's what grace means. And now we serve God not out of fear of hell, but out of love for him. And it's so beautiful because God owns everything, right? He made everything, the animals, the galaxies, the stars, the sea. He owns it all because he made it all. And I said, what's the one thing God doesn't own? It's our hearts, because we have to give it to him, because true love comes with a choice. So have we made that choice to give our heart to God? Have we made that choice to accept his grace? And I made sure the students understood there's nothing you can do to make God love you more than he already does. He loves you. He's paid it in full. So now we serve him out of love for him, not out of fear of keeping us out of hell, because he's already paid that price, the price we never could have paid ourselves. So maybe ask your student, hey, what did you get from this weekend? Focus on that big word. What is grace? And what does that mean? How did God show his grace for us? So hope this helped. Hope you guys had a happy Easter, and thanks for watching.